Tuesday. It is Tuesday, July 7th in the year 2026, and welcome to another edition of Tuesdays with Tom. Well, I hope you all had a good holiday weekend, the 4th of July commemorating the 250th birthday of the country. It was hot and sticky, but the night was full of loud, colorful fireworks, and there was a bunch of stuff going on in our neighborhood. A lot of shooting going on. I guess it was fireworks, who knows? But I want to talk for a few minutes about a 15-time All-Star in baseball, a man who was a 12-time Gold Glove recipient, 4-time National League batting champion, 1966 National League MVP, 1971 World Series MVP, and his name was Roberto Clemente. Roberto Clemente played for the Pittsburgh Pirates, and he had a very, very generous spirit, and that spirit he often contributed to local schools and hospitals, donating baseball equipment and hosting clinics for children. Clemente personally assisted friends and strangers alike, offering them time and financial support. On December 31, 1972, after leading relief efforts across Puerto Rico to gather supplies for victims of a devastating earthquake in Nicaragua, Clemente boarded a plane to personally deliver the aid to the victims. He was killed when that plane crashed just after takeoff. Shortly after his death, Clemente was inducted into the National Baseball Hall of Fame after the 5-year waiting period was waived in honor of his extraordinary impact. He was later awarded the first Presidential Citizens Medal and the Presidential Medal of Honor, the highest civilian honors in recognition of his humanitarian leadership. Today, Clemente's number 21 represents his compassionate and charitable character. On Roberto Clemente Day, Major League players wear number 21 in his honor, and the Roberto Clemente Award recognizes players who exemplify his commitment to community service. More than 70 years after debuting in the majors, Clemente's legacy continues to show what it means to step up to the plate. So, our G-list guest today, we don't have a G-list guest today. We have a round table, which should be fun. We have the two barbers and Michael and whomever else wants to participate and get involved. Should be fun. Our show today, of course, is brought to you by the consulting firm of Best Girl. Let's hear from Best Girl.
Best Girl is a consulting firm that provides customized leadership, access and inclusion, public relations, communications, and organizational consulting services. Clients include Fortune 500 companies, utilities, higher education institutions, small businesses, and associations. Best Girl's team of consultants, led by Joyce Gilly-Gossam, Emily Hedrick, and Sean Jones, partners with business and education clients to promote organizational effectiveness, communication, motivation, and leadership, with always an impact on the bottom line. Best Girl's customized consulting services include strategic planning, corporate communication, executive coaching, fundraising, and economic development.
Best Girl customizes the solution that fits your needs. So let's go to the first round of today's roundtable with the two barbers, Michael and myself. So let's hear from one of the barbers. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good
Good
morning.
morning. Good morning, everybody.
All right.
Go ahead, Barbara. Yeah, go ahead, my
Well,
sis.
I want to, I will start by saying I hope everyone had a wonderful 4th of July spent holiday. I did. I spent my time over in Atlanta, of course, with family and my favorite 5-year-old and his family and tons more. We had like 14 children and 16 adults in one household on the holiday, and there was a lot of food, fun, festivities. They had bounce houses and water slides for the kids in the backyard. So it was a great time. We had a really, really good holiday. But I also wanted to bring up something that's really sad. I know we've all probably heard the story of the 18-year-old Nolan
Barbara, could you
Wells.
speak up a little bit? It's hard. I'm
Yes, I'm
having a hard
sorry.
time hearing you.
Okay, I'm sorry. The 18-year-old Nolan Wells in Ocean Springs, Mississippi. That story has been hot. On July 4th, he went out with three of his friends on a boat, and they went over to Horn Island near Ocean Springs, and his friends returned without him. The family reported him missing. There was searches going on, I think, starting Saturday evening, and they finally found him yesterday morning at around 8:45, and he was deceased. But really great young man. Both his high school principal, his high school coach, his college coach. He went to a community college there in Mississippi. They all spoke so very highly of him, and of course, there's a lot of unanswered questions regarding his death and how it all happened. It's going to be interesting to see how this all turns out. But you know, Tom and Michael, you both have children. I wanted to ask. You know, people are saying his parents should not have let him go off with three children that they didn't know that well, but it seems like the family did know them that well. But how would you all have handled a situation like that if you had an 18, 19-year-old say, I'm going to go hang out with some of my friends for today. We're going to go get on a boat and go over to another, to an island that's very popular. There were hundreds and thousands of people out there. Would you have handled that any differently?
I don't. I mean, it just depends on the situation. I don't know. If they were good friends of his, and this is something they did regularly. If they live where I live, and boating is an everyday thing,
Right.
probably wasn't a big deal
Exactly.
for the parents. But I don't know. So, but I would, when you live around boating, whatever. Now, what made him disappear or whatever, I don't know.
Right.
That's a whole different equation. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll just add to it, and I agree with what Tom says. It depends on the situation, and I don't know. Excuse me, being at 18 and being in that environment, that would be something that you would kind of restrict or try to restrict. I think probably from my perspective, and I still do this with my kids. I tell them to practice safety first, be very vigilant of their surroundings. And I would have to give him a conversation about that and probably say to him, a lot of things unusual happen around holidays and holiday weekends.
Yes.
So you just need to be extra careful in what you do. Probably would have talked to him. And he may have been a good swimmer. I'm probably sure he was. He played
Yes.
football. He was an athlete. He probably was a good swimmer. So I don't know if saying, and we don't know if he drowned or what have you. It
Yes.
seemed like it's
Yes.
foul play,
It
because if
does.
he was drowning, they would have said so, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So I don't think that would have entered into the equation. It's just a very tough situation. And there's no way as a parent you can say, hey, you know, don't do this or don't do that.
Right.
So it just been going with the percentages and trying to get him to be very, very careful and vigilant of what he's doing and be careful, not take any chances. And that's what young boys do. Not saying this happened, but a lot of time young boys in their late teens, they take a lot of risks and chances.
That's true. That is
Well,
true.
and you can't. Some neighbors of ours left their home for the month, and we go by and we check on their house. Well, I asked my wife not to go over there by herself because
Right.
you never know. Somebody may know that they are gone
Mm-hmm.
or whatever, and nothing happened, but you just have an extra bit of carefulness, an extra bit of
Absolutely.
caution, because you never know. You never know who's watching who,
That's
and
right.
who may. Somebody may see them pack their car up and leave for a month and take it as an opportunity. So you never know. So
That is so
I,
true.
I don't know if you can. If the parents were negligent, they probably just he was doing what the kids normally do.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That is so true. And there were some issues I think that were probably may have played into it. I don't know, but of course these kids were underage. They were all drinking. There were pictures, posted where they were drinking beer.
Oh.
And not to say that he was drunk or his friends were drunk, but
Mm-hmm.
there were a lot of things that are questionable about the whole situation. But you're right, Michael, with it being the holiday weekend, you do have to be extra precautious and extra careful. The things that kids normally do, you just, I would second guess and say, maybe not today because it is a holiday.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
but, hindsight is 50-50. You just don't ever know. You think it's fine. Everything's going to be okay like it always is. And something could happen this time. You just don't know.
There was so many. I guess there were fireworks. There were so many fireworks going on
Yes.
that
Oh.
the other night. I wouldn't even go outside. It's like I don't know. I mean, there's stuff up in the air. Who knows where it comes down or what have you?
That's
And I've
true.
done it in the
Hmm.
past, but you just I don't know. You just put a little extra piece of caution on a lot of things, depending upon the
Right.
circumstance.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I
to you,
remember my father saying to me when summertime would come, he would always give us this speech about being cautious
Hmm.
because summer people are more free. Some young people are going to be working. Some young people are not going to have anything to do. So mischief is afoot. But I think that particularly in my senior in high school and as being a senior in college, there was at the beginning of the fall, he sat me down and he said, "This is your senior year. Sometimes you think you're making a good decision and you're not. You need to be careful this year because a lot of people are not going to make their senior year. Things happen. So please be cautious. Take your time. Seek my advice, that kind of a thing." Then I remember, you all remember the Auburn student who lost his way in Japan. You remember
Yes.
not too long ago. Um, this young man just got upset with his mother and he just walked off. In a foreign country, oh my gosh, that would
Yes.
but even holidays should be treated like a foreign country because you really don't know what's going to happen. Fireworks, people are tossing them, all kinds of accidents happen, all kinds of fights broke out. It was just terrible.
Yeah.
So, like Tom, I mainly tried to stay close to home. Yeah.
Yeah.
well, to follow up on what you were saying, Tom, and to your point as well, Barbara, here in Atlanta, in one of the suburbs, they were celebrating the Fourth of July and had fireworks going like at a center for the community
Hmm.
to come in.
Yes.
And during the time that the fireworks were going off, people heard gunshots and they
Hmm.
were trying to determine were they
Which,
gunshot, fireworks, or
Or what?
whatever. So
Yeah.
everybody was totally discombobulated. And
hmm
Right.
it turned out that somebody was shooting. One person who has worked within I guess I'll just say, for the lack of a better term, justice administration over there in DeKalb County, was struck by a bullet in her home
Oh
in
my.
that area where somebody was shooting a gun. And she's in the hospital right now. And so, you know, how much careful can you be? You in your home
Hmm.
and you get struck by a bullet, somebody's out there shooting. So, you know, at times like this, it's just so many things that go on that you just are not able to protect yourself from, and you just have to try to make the best decisions as you can, to be
Right.
honest, you know.
I don't have kids, but I think I probably would have been a helicopter mom and been saying no most of the time. Well, as I mentioned, I was over in Atlanta and we had four teenagers there, and when about dusk, they were talking about trying to go over to watch fireworks, and it was only about 10 miles away, but they were saying they wanted to get in the car and drive over to the fireworks, and the parents were discussing it and the grandparents were discussing it, and they were like, well, they're okay. The young man that was going to be driving, he's very responsible, drives well. And I spoke up and I said, no, it's the 4th of July. He may be a perfect driver, but there's so many people out there who are drinking and driving. People who are being distracted because they're looking at fireworks or whatever else is going on. I wouldn't do it. I just wouldn't allow them to go out right now. And so they thought about it, and it's like, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, that's a great idea because yeah, we don't know who else is out there, what they're doing, what we don't control them, and
Right.
he can't control them as a driver. So that was probably the best decision because you just don't ever know.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. You just have to be very, very careful.
Hmm.
And for me, my antenna go up. We were myself and a friend. We were going to go look at fireworks and stuff, right? And we
Hmm.
pulled into this um, shopping center area where there's a movie theater, and it's just packed with cars, and we're looking for a place to park. And
Right.
so there's this van here, and you know how you have a parking space, and then behind it is these striped lines. You're
Yes.
not supposed to park there, but
Right.
sometimes people do that.
Right.
So one of the passengers in my car said, "Why don't you park right there? We can park there." I say, "No, I say, first of all, you can't. You're not supposed to park there." I say, "And that's a police car that's in front of it." They didn't even
Yeah.
see the blue lights flash. I said, "Why would I go park in an illegal spot right behind the police?"
Yeah. That would not have been smart.
Right. And then as we were going to find a place, because people all, on the hills and stuff trying to see,
Everywhere.
and this was like in
Hmm.
a shopping area, they wanted to go right down here by this curve because they felt like they had a clear vision of
Hmm.
sight. But that
Yes.
curve is where cars are coming in. And I said, no, I'm not going to sit there because I can't control somebody coming around that curve. We'll be sitting
Right.
ducks. We're going to go and sit up here a little higher up, and maybe we will have to look above the roof, but I don't have to worry about somebody coming around the curve and hitting me. So you just have
That's
to think
smart.
about stuff like that. They
Yes.
looked at me like I was crazy, but I was like, no, I'm not doing that.
Being cautious, and
I
that's
think
smart.
that parents look at your friends differently than you do,
That's
than
true.
kids do. Parents look
Hmm.
at kids differently, and they see things that you don't see, or
So
they
true.
have reasons that they don't want you to go with Johnny
Yes,
Right.
because
yes,
they know Johnny may do something that they don't want you to do,
That's
right,
and
right.
you may go along with it, and so
right,
Right.
you end up hey you're mad at them, but it's probably in your best interest, you know.
yes,
Absolutely.
exactly,
Absolutely.
exactly.
So true.
I like to talk about something that's very ironic, and my favorite politician these days. But, there was a big celebration going on in Washington, D.C. called 250 or whatever it was. And all these fireworks and everything was playing and stuff. And there was early concern about the lack of no shows and what have you. Well, in such a twist of fate, right during the celebration, when everything was ready to pop off,
Okay,
there
I
was a
can't
big
hear him. You
thunderstorm
need to
that
help me.
came.
I'm off camera now.
And, you know, thunderstorms, lightning, and the patrons, who were mainly Trump supporters, were told they needed to seek shelter. And the place that they had to seek shelter was none other than the American History Museum, that museum that Trump wanted to defund and get rid of and not want to make people aware of the history of African Americans in this country. His Trump supporters had to go there to seek shelter from lightning and thundering. How ironic is that?
Good. Maybe they'll learn something. Maybe they learned something. Who knows?
Yeah, I would hope that they would. It seemingly that there's a lot of irony concerning things that he's doing, just as though from the same point he stepped into the controversial U.S. men's soccer match, and the guy that was going to be suspended and would not have played last night because he was one of the better players. He just happened to be the subject of birthright citizenship, which Trump is trying to get rid of, saying that if your parents are flying over America or whatever, and they just happen to be here on visit and you're born, but you don't live here, then you don't have the right to citizenship, birthright citizenship. It has to be the country from which your parents are from. Well, this guy that was playing on the U.S. team, he fits that because when he was actually born, he was born in New York. His mother and father, I think, were from London. They were headed back that way, but the doctors would not allow her to fly because of how close she was to giving birth. So she ended up giving birth to him here in New York. And then shortly after, as soon as they were able to, they went back to London. Well, now he's playing here, and he would be one of the people that Trump are trying to get rid of. But for the soccer game, he defended him.
Does that strike you as something he wouldn't do?
Well, it's kind of like over here it's okay, over there it's not okay, and it's just made based on how I feel and my decision, I guess.
There's never any logic, Michael, to what that man does. We're surprised and shouldn't be, but we're surprised almost every day with something that he does and says that's a logical person would not do or say.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's going to be very interesting because now some of the stalwart Republicans are starting to distance themselves from him and starting to push back, which I expected it to happen anyway because he's going in the lame duck. And you know what's so funny about it? These people knew all along the stuff that he was doing was ridiculous and didn't make sense. But they kowtowed to him just because of trying to protect what they had or where they were. Because if they didn't, then he would primary them. But they let this one man wreak havoc in a complete political party that never had this before. Right. And to begin with, he wasn't a Republican to begin with. He was a Democrat. Right. And he switched over because he knew in order to get elected, he had to run as a Democrat. And now they are trying to pull it back, but I think it may be a little bit too late. And then on the other side, the Democrats are concerned about the onslaught of the Democrat socialists of the party. Like these people that are being elected now, this one girl in New York, she comes in saying, we need to have complete open borders, get rid of the prisons. She wants to totally turn everything upside down and take it socialist. And she's saying, Hakeem Jeffries, you're next. Now, Hakeem Jeffries, in my mind, has done a very good job considering what he's had to work with. He's handled himself well. But now you want to go target somebody like Hakeem Jeffries, which, by the way, is somebody that the Republican Party really is concerned about because he knows what he's doing. So politics in this country is going haywire.
It is. I mean, the lines are shifting. I've said for a while now. There's already three parties. We've got the MAGAs, the Republicans, and the Democrats. And now the Republicans are saying they're going to start another party. There's some Republicans talking about that. So it is going to be really interesting to see this next round of elections, how things go, because a lot of people are unhappy or not happy with the politics and politicians, and we will see how things go. Hopefully they won't stay home. They'll get out and vote, but that remains to be seen.
All righty. Who's up next?
I guess it's me. I was out for a minute there and I didn't hear anything Michael said, and he was just going away talking about a very exciting subject, but I was unable to hear is what was going on. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the 4th of July as it was seen through the eyes of Frederick Douglass. I don't know if you all had a chance to talk about that or not. But just looking back and being in his situation as a former enslaved person who worked to free himself and to become well respected, well spoken, and to be in the thick of the abolitionist movement. During that time, he was asked to speak about the 4th of July. And his concern was, how is the 4th of July important to African Americans? And that question still sits before us even today. And he was very brave to say that this is your country, this is your freedom. He said, I escaped slavery, and now I am working to free other people. And even still, it is lawful to hold and sell human beings. And one of the things that National Public Radio did, which I thought was absolutely wonderful, they created a video which you can find on National NPR, where they took his fifth generation um, nieces and nephews and grandchildren, and they read the actual speech that Frederick Douglass, Frederick Douglass had written. And it was so impactful because these young people who were uh, 18 and in their 20s, spoke with great passion the actual speech that he had written. And so it gave me hope that there are young people who truly understand what the 4th of July is about, what the Declaration of Independence means, and how important the 13th and the 14th Amendments are important for the survival of us who've been here for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 generations who are of color. So if people get a chance to read it, please do. If you get a chance to watch it on National Public Radio, NPR, and hear it, his grandchildren, great grandchildren, reading his speech, it is very impactful, very impactful.
Yeah, there was a lot of discussion about whether um, blacks, we as blacks, should be celebrating the 4th of July.
Hmm.
We of course we celebrate Juneteenth, um, but I read a perspective. Kerry Good, who played football at Alabama, who now suffers from ALS, posts a
Hmm.
lot of very intriguing um, posts and his opinions. And there was something that Kerry posted the other day that really caught my eye. He said, "This country belongs to all of us.
Hmm.
Our families, our forefathers built this country. And so even though we were not all free on July 4th, 1776, we contributed to the freedom of others. And so, yes, we should celebrate both days, the 4th of July as well as Juneteenth." And, he said, I'm an American. And so, yes, our country has been free, even though each individual in the country wasn't free on that date. So that was a very interesting perspective, I thought, and I wanted to thank Terry for that information he shared
Hmm.
on his social media posts.
I think that's so important. And I'm glad that he posted that because um, when you look at it, especially the article that Michael had on the wealth of America, we were the wealth of America.
Mm-hmm.
Our bodies, our inventions, our minds, our service. We were body servants to many of the people who served in the Revolutionary War as well as in the Civil War. And
Right.
many of us were pressed in the service and went and fought in the Civil War in place of people who decided they didn't want to go.
Right.
So we have contributed at every point of the freedom and the wealth of this country, and we still are the wealth of this country. We do
Absolutely.
the heavy lifting. We've always done the heavy lifting. Our ancestors did the heavy lifting. So
Right.
when you look at Wells Fargo Bank, and they were started in 1865, I said, that's interesting. When you look at all of these universities, William and Mary, you look at Georgetown, they survived because they had enslaved people and they sold them in order to pay their debts. It's there. Georgetown was very, very smart. They decided that, okay, it's time for us to have scholarships for all of those descendants of the people that were sold to keep us solvent. And so
Yes.
that's a wonder. That was a progressive step. I hope that other universities will take that step as well. And even as we walk on the campus of Auburn University, many of those older buildings, especially the chapel, there's a plaque outside of the chapel, that indicates that we did the free labor of building that chapel. Um, and so it's everywhere. If we look close enough, we have status in saying, yes, we were here. We did this. We are a part of this country. We are part of its very beginning. We came here before the Mayflower. We were here in
Mm-hmm.
1619. doing our part, being sold for somebody to eat some food. I mean, it's just incredible. So, yeah, we celebrate, but we celebrate knowing the strong history that we have. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring that up. I spent a little bit of time over the weekend just kind of reading about different things, and yeah, that's how the wealth of them of
Hmm.
the people at that time, their wealth was considered based off of land and
Hmm.
cattle and people that they owned,
Hmm.
slaves, and that was how they measured their wealth and stuff. There's a plantation in Virginia called the Shirley Plantation
Hmm.
that is the oldest and was the first plantation in that area, and it's been in existence for 400 years. But it's
Hmm.
so interesting, and Tom and I have discussed this before about land grants and stuff. That
Yeah.
plantation was basically awarded to this family as a land grant. And
Hmm.
then in initially, when they first began to operate, they were using white indentured servants.
Hmm.
But
Mhm.
as that became less and less a part of it, they switched to African Americans. And he had between 60 and 70 slaves that were tending the fields and operating that. And the family still lives there. It's like the 11th and 12th generation of this family. They live on the top floors of this plantation. The
Mhm.
bottom part of it is a museum and it's a national monument. And so that, is generating money from that standpoint. But that
Right.
was all given to them.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And I looked at it a little bit more, and I was looking for our 40 acres and a mule.
Right.
And that was
Yes.
put in the law. But we never got our 40 acres and a mule because they changed
Right.
the laws and made it prohibited to
Mhm.
provide that. But yet, and still, certain people could be granted land. Uh, so,
Well, Michael, I think it was a little worse than that
Right.
because in South Carolina, there were African Americans who actually received their 40 acres and a mule, but then the government took it back.
Took it back.
Took it
Yes.
back because
Yes.
initially I think one of the generals decided that that's what they wanted to do, and then the federal government said no, we're not going to do that because the landowners were getting the white landowners were getting upset because blacks are now on an equal basis with land and with mules to farm the land, and who did better work on the land than we did? If we had
Right.
our own land, we were going to outdo them, and they figured it out. So they
Right.
reneged on it, took it back. They're there,
mm,
Charleston, South Carolina.
it seems like every other country and can get reparations. We're gonna give Iran some money. They had taken this money. Why didn't they just keep that? You know,
Right.
if the current president want to make things right, he can provide us with some reparations. We're the one here that's protecting the country now. Hello,
Hello.
You are correct.
just
Hello.
just a thought. Okay, we're gonna spend hundreds of billions of dollars to a country that's trying to take us out, but our own people right here. There's no reason why we should be the country we are with people that are dying because of the problem with health care. A
Right.
gentleman that was a heart transplant recipient, and he got caught up in the fact that he had to switch healthcare plans because of the outrageous costs. And then in trying to switch and find a better plan, then there were all these barriers that were put in place that did
Mhm.
not allow him to get the medication he had. Unfortunately, when he switched over, he only had about a month or 2 month supply of medication that would keep him alive
Wow.
with his heart. Because, sometimes when you introduce a foreign object or organ into the body, your natural body starts to fight against it. And that's
Mhm.
what was happening. And he needed that medication. Unfortunately, he died on the streets in front of a Dollar General or some store
Oh.
because of giving out. And we have people that are elected to office that have killed the subsidies for health care and still have not come up with a solution.
Right.
But all they do
Right.
is kill stuff.
Yeah.
You know,
So
and it always bothers me that and Michael, you probably can know this number better than I do, but I think there are so many years that a senator or a U.S. representative serves and then they get health care for life. Is that correct?
That's
Yeah.
I
right.
don't know if it's 2 years, three
That is
years, or 4 years. I don't know. But all that I ask is we're paying for their health care, we're paying for their salaries, and
their
yet
pensions. Yes.
we can't get the same health care that we're paying for you. If the government is paying for your health care and paying for it for life, does that sound like a socialist kind of
Absolutely, it
belief,
does. Yes.
high point? I mean, come on. and
Yes.
and we are some people are dying on the street because they can't get the services that's needed, and they're paying for their health care, yet you get free health care, and you got the what you call the platinum um type of health care that we can't even get um silver, you know
Right.
in a lot
I,
of instances.
Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, was speaking last week, and he was talking about how the Republicans are the party that's concerned about health care. They want to make sure all Americans have, health care, and the voters need to really pay attention to that. And one of the reporters asked him, he said, "How can you say that when you have the, the ACA is what you got rid of? You're changing all of that. You have no answer. You have no
No answer.
proposal for anything new, but you want to get rid of that, and now you say your party is the one that's concerned about health care. That doesn't go well together. So again, speaking out of both sides of their mouth when they talk about providing health care, when those who are in Congress have it. They have lifetime, like you said, lifetime coverage, so they don't have to worry about it. They don't care about the little people. They say they do.
And they're
Yeah.
supposed to represent us.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Who are the little people? That's what I want.
Oh, the little people that they look down on, Tom. That's who I'm referring to. Anybody that's not in Congress, they see as little people.
and
we
and
don't
that are
we
not
don't identify
contributing.
ourselves that way. Go
And the
ahead,
ones
Barbara.
who are contributing those 6 and 7 figure donations to their campaign, those are
Yes.
their friends.
Yes.
You know, those are their
That's all they
friends.
really
Yeah.
care about. Yes.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Anybody got anything else?
Barbara, did you talk about the Miami Mamas?
I did not.
I want you to talk about that girl. That's a good one.
Yes, there are Russian women, and they've been doing this for years, I understand, but it seems like there has been really an increase lately. Women are coming over from Russia to have their children, and there is programs. You go out there and look at the Miami Mamas. There is a program that offers women in Russia an opportunity to pay up to $100,000 to come over and have their children in the U.S., mainly in Miami, mainly living in Trump facilities, Trump residences that pay up to $100,000 to come over and have their babies, so that the children will have birthright citizenship in the U.S. They go back home, but the children have the opportunity at the age of 21 to sponsor their parents to come to the U.S. and become U.S. citizens and get a green card.
Oh, you mean
No,
like Melania?
yeah, like
There you
Melania,
go.
Okay.
like Melania. So, no one has had a problem with that. They're talking about the people from Somalia and other places coming here, and the birthright citizenship is an issue, but no one has mentioned anything about the women coming from Russia. And then they said since I think in the last 3 years, that it's been a 200% increase in the
Hmm.
number of Russian women who are coming to the U.S. to have their children, and staying up to 6 months, and staying in luxury facilities in Florida. And again, it's not anything that the anyone from the House has even mentioned as an issue for those women, but they want to talk about people of color who come here and have children, and that's a problem, and them having birthright citizenship for their children. Um,
Yeah.
Interesting.
And he has
So, what are your
targeted the
thoughts?
Somalias. He has
Mm-hmm.
targeted the Somalias, the Haitians, the Chinese about
Mm-hmm.
having birthright citizenship. And there was a clip that was shown of him when he was running for office that he was so adamant about getting rid of birthright citizenship.
Right.
Yet, last week he was advocating for the soccer player, who gained his birthright citizenship here in the United States and how
Right.
important he was to the game. It goes on and on. It
It
never
does.
seems to cease. Yeah, yeah, amazing. So,
Okay. Well, since we're doing the round table, we got another round. Let's go to Sean and let her do a guide a minute, and we'll come back and finish up the round table. Sean, I hope I didn't catch you off guard, but if you're out there, we'd love to hear a guide a minute. Thank you, ma'am.
Good morning to everyone joining in with us. My name is Shantia Jones, and this is Got a Minute. It's Tuesday, and lately it feels like the world has been moving pretty fast. Every time we turn around, there's a headline, there's another opinion, there's another crisis, another reason to feel tired before the day even begins. And sometimes, without realizing it, we carry all of that with us. We carry the noise, we carry the worry, we carry the pressure to know what to think, to what to say, how to feel. And maybe today is a reminder that being aware does not mean that we have to be consumed. We can care about the world and still protect our peace. We can stay informed and take breaks. We can acknowledge what is heavy and still look for all the things that are good. Because even in certain uncertain times, kindness still matters. Patience still matters. Community still matters. And hope still matters. So today, take a break, check on someone, give yourself grace, and remember the state of the world does not have to steal the state of your heart. And that's it. That's your minute. I want you all to go out and have a great day. And if you don't want to, then don't you go out and ruin anybody else's because they can do that for themselves. Thank you all for joining in. My name is Shantia Jones, and this has Got a Minute.
Second round of the round table today, and does anybody want to kick that off? Got anything?
Well,
there?
Tom, I'd like to ask you about this article you sent about the Alabama-fication of national politics.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. And I know it's Doug Jones and Tommy Tuberville, but
did
what does that
everybody
mean?
hear Michael? I cannot.
Yes, we're hearing.
Okay, I can't hear him. I don't know what's up.
Basically, they're just going through the thing about him, Tuberville, not living in the state of Alabama and running for governor. And
Yes.
Doug, I think, is starting to dig into that because I think that's, I don't know. I don't know about people. Why that would not automatically just disqualify you
Right.
from running. It shouldn't even be a discussion.
I agree.
But the money people want Tuberville. And I don't want to get into calling the man dumb and all that, although he is. Uh, uh, I just feel like it doesn't make, if you look at what they've done, you look at what Doug has done in terms of bringing forth the criminals and the bombing of the 16th Street Church, in terms of when he was a senator and so on and so forth. It's not even a competition to me.
None. None at all.
And but somebody said the other day, all the people from Auburn are going to vote for Tuberville because he coached at Auburn. That makes absolutely no sense. That's
None.
why Alabama is 49 and
Right.
stays at 49 with that kind of thinking.
Right. And I can tell you this: one Auburn graduate is not going to vote. An Alabama resident is not planning on voting for Tommy Tuberville. Again, he's not qualified. From first of all, he's not qualified mentally. And second of all, from a residential standpoint, he has not lived in Alabama for 7 consecutive years. And that is a requirement to enter the governor's race in Alabama. So how the Republican Party the Alabama Republican Party has allowed him to bypass all of that requirement and put him in as their candidate, you know, it's wrong. It is wrong. And one of the opponents in the primaries, Kim McPheeters, questioned the issue, brought it up to the Alabama Republican Party. They so-called had a hearing to discuss it, and the party still decided that Tuberville was going to be their candidate. So now there's a new lawsuit has been filed by two Alabama veterans, some Alabama veterans, and so now that is going to be decided by the courts, and it's just a matter of whether that's going to be done before the elections or will it be after the election. But lawsuits have been filed, and it's going to be interesting to see how that turns out.
I think the whole thing about the title, the Alabamification, is basically talking about how Alabama pretty much repeats itself over and over in terms of politics. And if you look at Tuberville's not even really campaigning. What's his issues?
No,
He doesn't have any issues. He's Tommy Tuberville.
that's all.
I coached at Auburn. That
That's
ought to
it.
be enough for you to put me over the top. This other guy's just a politician. I'm a football coach, and if you look at Doug and you look at his campaign, it's diverse. Of course, that's a quote bad word. It's a diverse campaign with people from all over the state, people from all different walks of life, so on and so forth. And in terms of ethnicity, a lot of people of color rallying behind this man. And I just hope that he can pull it out. It's an uphill thing for him, but it would maybe bring a new era of politics to Alabama. If growing up in Alabama, up until I think the mid '90s, Democrats pretty much ran the state. And then Goober won, and so they took over. The Republicans basically took over and have run it since then. But nothing has really changed.
Right.
And so I just think it's I don't know. It's amazing to me that this is even a discussion.
It is.
So that's where I am on it. I don't know. You guys may have a different opinion.
You're absolutely right, Tom, and it's amazing that people have voted against their best interest. A lot of the residents here in the state are living under poverty levels, and some of those same people are voting for someone who really, again, doesn't care about their situation and if they get better, whether they have insurance and whether there's good schools for their children to go to, hospitals in rural areas. Those are things that should be important to them, and something that Doug Jones is concerned about. As you mentioned, Tom Tuberville has no platform. He has no real basis for anything other than he coached at Auburn. He's a Republican. He supports Trump. They should vote for him. That's basically all he said. This man didn't even know that there were 3 branches of the government. So how can he, first of all, we don't know how he even became senator, but he certainly should not be governor of the state of Alabama.
And he didn't quite understand the voting rights bill, so don't forget that.
No, he did not.
Right.
Yeah.
And if that man has coached all those years, and 90% of those players that he coached were black, and I haven't heard one of them say
Mm-mm,
anything positive about it. I
No,
haven't
mm-mm,
not
heard one
one.
of them say, "Yeah, we need to go vote for him."
mm-mm,
Not
None
one.
of them have stood up for him, and
No.
that ought
mm-mm.
to say something about how they feel about him and who they feel he is. He's
Right.
pretty much. It's pretty much been determined that these moneyed people, and I don't know whether they're all Republicans or Democrats, whatever, but these money people are going to support him, and that's how he's going to win. And
Hmm.
then when he's in office, he's going to support the money people
That's it.
because that's how the politics works in Alabama. And so somebody like Doug, who can probably make a positive difference in the state and who is willing to work with everybody, um, has a tough time getting elected. So
Mhm.
um, hopefully the court ruling will say he can't
Right.
run, and
Right.
then we'll see what happens.
Yes.
That's going to be interesting. I don't know if that's going to happen before the election. Going back to
Right.
your point, Barbara, they
Right.
have a tendency to not want to do something that will change the outcome of the election, so to speak,
Mhm.
Hmm.
take it out of the
Mhm.
people's hand. So uh, they probably will not hear it until after it. And then, if that's the case, then how do you go back and undo it? So,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
just saying that's how I've seen it work. You know, switching the subject, guys, how do you guys feel about stem cells and stuff? That's still rage about
Mhm.
having to live longer and healthier and what have you. And stem cell technology is what's going on. BPL, what do you think about stem cell?
Well, there are some good things that have come out of stem cells, and then you have to weigh the pros with the cons. And I just have an opinion. I don't have anything to truly back it up. But when you talk about using stem cells to improve the person's um, lifestyle, their health, I think that's a good thing. But I also know that when you look at that, there are also some things where it can be used where it's not helpful. So I think we have to do a balancing act when it comes to stem cells. Um, there was a rage for a while where it was just so positive, so positive, so positive. And then all of a sudden, some conservative people got a hold of it and started saying that, this is God did not intend for this to happen. They brought the God factor in. But I think that science can do some really good things with stem cells and help people's lifestyles be better because of the maybe the health that they have. They can improve their health. I think that's a good thing.
Hmm. Well, the
Right.
reason why I brought that up, scientists have just created the most life
Mm,
like cell
cell.
ever made in a
Hmm.
lab. And
Hmm.
they're saying that it can accomplish things that just like a normal cell would do. And it's undergoing a peer review, but it's a synthetic cell that can eat, grow, and divide in a way that's remarkably similar to living cells.
Hmm.
And I find that very interesting that, and they're doing it out of chemicals. So that also kind of, you know, give you a pause to think about
Yes.
this.
Yes.
But there's a lot of money and buzz behind this because they're trying to maybe see how it's going to help people live healthier lives, longer
Hmm.
lives, and what have you. And I get that, but you just have to be very careful because
You do.
people will get into it, and as Tom say, the big money people will get involved, and then they may try and corner the market. Then they
Of
may try to
course.
Of
control
course they
the
are.
identity of these cells and predict
Right.
how
Of
they will
course.
be and look and all that type of stuff, and then it'll just be them that has the benefits of
Right.
the
And I
cell technology.
and I can see them creating these cells to keep certain people um, only
Alive.
half well and
Mm-hmm.
others fully well because
Mm-hmm.
now the half well will become the workforce to do what they want them to do. So there are all kinds of possibilities. Evil has, we have to factor in the evil factor too,
Yes.
because
Yes.
it's always there. It's always there. But, Michael, I just think that being able to help people who want to live a good, healthy life, I think that's a good thing. If that can help someone who has sickle cell anemia to have more healthy cells that don't attack each other, that's a good
Right.
thing.
Right.
If you can help someone who has needs brain cells to help them with Alzheimer's to, that's a good thing. But then you still have to think about the Frankenstein people. They
Right.
want to get it. They want to corner the market and monetize this thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's usually what
Mm.
happens. They outprice those who really need it and can't afford it, and
Mm-hmm.
they still end up with having major health issues or dying. And then there's others who, just because they can afford it, can live longer, healthier lives and still not necessarily be concerned about their eating habits, their exercise, not trying to
Mm-hmm.
do the normal things it takes to live longer and to live healthier lives. They just take the shortcut route because they can afford it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
light of that question, Michael, what's going on with Mitch McConnell? He probably could benefit from this new cell if it was on the market. But what's going on with Mitch McConnell? There's a lot of conversation out there about him and
Mitch is
his
missing in
ability.
action.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
not the
Yeah.
first time either.
No.
Well,
I heard
this
his. I
this is
heard
where
his
you talk
wife is.
about this. Well, excuse me.
Mhm.
This is where you
Go
talk
ahead.
about what they need to implement, which is term limits. And you
Mm-hmm.
brought up earlier about,
Right.
like, for a senator is 6 years. I mean,
Right.
each term is 6 years, and then
Right.
they just get more and more. They keep running and stuff. So Mitch McConnell is a byproduct of the lack of term limits. And when you
Right.
think about it, somebody like his age, he's not really
He's not
mentally
well.
there to really vote and do what's right, but he do not want to give up that power, and it's just becoming an embarrassment. It's almost like a boxer that stays around too long, that goes into the ring when he shouldn't, and he's just getting beat. And that's what's happening right now with Mitch McConnell and stuff, and they don't have anybody that they feel on the bench that can fill
Hmm.
that void. Because see, they're looking for
Right.
somebody that's gonna do the same things he's done, rather than bringing in some maybe new ideas to benefit everybody. But definitely need to bring term limits. When the uh, quote founding fathers, you know, when they created the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution and all this stuff, they intended for people to be a statesman. You go
Hmm.
up, you serve your term, and then
Come
you go
out.
back to do what you were doing. It's not
Right.
a
Hmm.
career, okay?
Right.
It's now turned into being a career politician, so to
Right.
speak. And they go there, and a lot of those people, they go there and get elected, and they couldn't make any other type of contribution meaningful to society if it were not for that. And you
Hmm.
get people like this Graham Plattner up there in Maine that's done all this crazy stuff, but they wanted to get him in there because they want Susan Collins out, which is
Right.
ironic. Because Susan Collins is a moderate Republican, and she votes against Trump more than anything else. But
True.
again, they feel like she needs to go. But
Hmm.
you're going to get rid of her for a Graham Plattner. It's just that.
That
But
makes
I
sense.
think when you
Well,
talk about term limits, then it should work the other way as well, because the people in the House of Representatives have to run every 2 years. That means they're
yes,
yes.
always running.
yes,
Always.
They're always
yes,
Yes.
running.
Right.
yes,
And
Hmm.
so there's no when do they stop running to do
Right.
something
So
good
work.
for the
Yeah.
people.
right,
And
Exactly.
so the term limits need to work both ways.
right,
Okay.
You
Definitely.
need to be able, you can have one term as a House of Representative. That's 4 years.
Hmm.
But to have to run every 2 years is pretty much ridiculous.
It
yes.
And,
They
really
and
can't
is.
get anything done to because they're constantly dialing for dollars. They're
you're
on the
not
Right.
phone.
you're almost
Absolutely.
not done.
Right.
That
Yeah,
pretty much
Absolutely.
guarantees that.
yeah,
Yeah.
Right.
yeah.
And
You're
see, Mitch
correct.
has it where he has his money set, his donors set. But now
Hmm.
he's in the hospital, and no, none of his staff members are saying what's really happening with him. His wife is out of the country because she's would be the one to determine whether he's mentally there, or whether the machines need to be on or need to be off. She's out of the country. And that may be that payback that she had to stand when Trump insulted her, and Mitch McConnell did nothing about it. So she said, I'm
Right.
leaving town. See you later.
Right.
Y'all
Well, I
handle it.
understand, the rumor has it that he's on life support,
Right?
has been for quite some time. So, are they just trying to keep him alive so they don't have to try to fill that position because they're afraid of someone like Thomas Massey getting in office? Um,
Hmm.
yeah, but he has not been seen
For
in
quite a while.
quite a while. Right.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else?
Tom, I just want to mention I love your shirt. Um, did you get a
Uh,
chance to go to the Obama?
Joyce
Uh,
Joyce brought me one back.
oh,
So
wonderful,
she got a
wonderful.
chance to go, and she said it was people from all over the world, and
That
just
is
talked
great.
about the diversity of people and um, how meaningful it was. And
I
Hmm.
bet. I
so,
bet.
I bet.
Yeah.
Look
It's,
forward
it's
to
funny
going.
how people talk about the difference in presidents and what have you. And there's a faction of the population that it didn't matter what former President Obama did, it wasn't good, it was wrong, and what have
Hmm.
you.
Right.
Hmm.
And now, with the current president in there, Obama doesn't look so bad. you know,
He never
when
did.
you,
He never did to me,
well,
Michael. But yeah, you're
well, no,
right.
I understand that, but I'm just saying,
To the
even
opposition.
Yes.
yes, even to the people that were full-fledged Trump supporters, you
Hmm.
know, I had the opportunity to sit down and talk politics with somebody that was a Trumper that voted for Trump, and he said that, you know, he's been completely disappointed the second go round,
Wow.
and
Wow.
he said and I said he's not a strategist. He says no, he's not strategic at all. You know, he picks fights and does stuff that he shouldn't be doing as president, and so it's a lot of people that were hoodwinked by Trump, you know. And I know they get caught up in their policies and stuff, but and there are policies that I would agree with. Number one, I would control our borders. Number one,
Right.
but there are laws on the books. Enforce the laws and make
Right.
sure that people that want to come here, they come here the right way. And I would do
Yes.
that because we can't just up and go to some other country and decide we're going to move there. In other words, but
Mm-mm.
I would protect our
right.
borders. I would work on feeding our hungry. Okay. I would get, the good book says you can't take the splinter out of your neighbor's eye until you take the telephone pole out of your own eye. And that's where I see some issues with the US. We say we're the best country in America. Why don't you prove it? Let's fix the people within our own house first and take care of here. And then how we can help other people, then we can do that. But it has to be done equally. We can't say to the Miami mamas from Russia, you guys can come over here and get birthright citizenship, but because somebody else has a natural tan from a different country, they can't come and do the same thing. That's what's going to tear this
Right.
country apart.
Oh, yeah. It has before, and it can
Absolutely.
be. It can again.
Yes. Hmm.
Okay. Anything else? All right.
I just want to say, Michael, Tom, I just want to say that the Great American State Fair was a failure.
Was
Yes,
That's
it?
it
all.
was.
I didn't watch.
Yes, it was.
Well,
Total.
well, the ark that he built that fell apart. They repaired it, and that melted and fell out. The Ferris wheel, they couldn't get it going because the generator failed. It was so hot. It was so hot that they had to shut it down, and they wanted to start the celebration for 250 at 10 o'clock in the morning. So they postponed that to start it at noon. Now, when is the hottest point of the day? When does that
Noon.
begin?
Yes,
Noon.
noon.
Why would you?
Hmm.
Some thinking here was not going on well.
None.
They had a concert. There were 10 people present. The food prices, a turkey leg was $26. that the generators all went out, so the ice cream melted. I mean, it was a catastrophe.
And then it started storming, and they had to go to the National African American
Yes,
Museum
they did.
to take cover.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then they were singing God Bless America and all this. And then some person, of course, African American people who were on the Facebook and all were making these comments about how you wanted to shut down the African American Museum, and now you had to run in there for shelter. Black folks saving folks again, that kind of thing. And then one person said, "Well, it was our tax dollars that put this together, so you all could have it." And I'm going like, does that person not know that we pay taxes too?
Exactly.
I mean, really?
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. So anyway, that's all I have to say about the state fair and how that went. And it was, yeah.
Yeah. Celebration 250 didn't go as planned.
Mm-mm,
Yeah.
mm-mm,
Well,
not at all.
it's what about that liner in the pool that got ripped up that by
Oh,
vandals and stuff? that
And
that's
they spent several weeks trying to clean that up, and then they had this big fireworks display there,
hmm
and all the debris from the fireworks landed in the pool. So yesterday they were out trying to clean it up again. Everything he touches falls apart. I mean, you just can't make this stuff up.
you can't. And
You
somebody said,
cannot make it up.
somebody said that, he has put his name on the Kennedy Center. He was putting his name on just about everything you can do. He said, some of these things we can't remove. And I thought about the state fair and I said, some of it we won't have to remove. It's probably going to fall down because a lot of what was put together for that 250, it fell apart. So when will they remove the curtain from the Kennedy Center to make sure that his name is not up there? Because that did come down, but the curtain is still there in front of the Kennedy Center, so you can't see the whole name there. So, and I'm wondering how this east wing is going to hold up, but time will tell. It's going up pretty fast. Time will tell.
Anything else? All righty. Well, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, my closing comment today, we have pretty much talked about it, is it unfair for Tommy Tuberville to run for governor in the state of Alabama and not live in the state? To me, it's a clear violation of the rules. Come on. When we talk of division in the country, favoritism and cronyism is one of the big reasons why. Clearly, Tuberville is in violation of the law and the rules. He should not be allowed to run, period. Plus, if you followed Tuberville's time in the U.S. Senate, you realize he is not anywhere close to being one of the sharpest tools in the toolbox. Why and who would want him other than to utilize him for whatever gain you can get while he occupies the governor's chair? I just say that's too bad for the state of Alabama. And that's our show for today. Thank our audience. We appreciate you. We want to thank our sponsor, Best Girl Inc. Thanks again to the team, Barbara, Sean, Emily, Michael, and Joyce. And that's it for this July 7th. Remember, a day without a smile is a day wasted. If you've got an extra one, give one to someone else today. Enjoy yourself. Make every day count. Stay safe. Blessings. Peace.